All right, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Tuesday, January 29th, 2019. Get ready for the polar vortex. It's going to be dangerously cold all across the country, especially in the Midwest. Paul Goodlow of the Weather Channel is here with crucial information on how you can protect yourself. After Jussie Smollet from Empire was attacked overnight in Chicago, the attackers used the N-word and homophobic slurs. They even had a rope around his neck at one point. He is out of the hospital and safe. We got the pictures and also details. 4 black prisoners in an Ohio prison were chained to a table and stabbed by a white inmate. It is shocking video, and they say that the security guard actually set it up, but no charges were filed against him. In Baltimore, the state's attorney says no more prosecutions for simple marijuana possessions, and she is going to try to revoke 5,000 or so cases where folks have already been convicted. Also, the issue of workers. What is happening in this country to the American worker? We'll talk with Lee Saunders, president of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, to talk about also the resurgence of unions in Trump's America. Senator Kamala Harris, of course, killed it last night in a town hall on CNN, but new statements and old ones continue to generate criticism against her. And also, we'll pay tribute to the great R&B singer James Ingram. He died today at the age of 66 because of brain cancer. We'll be talking with Jeffrey Osborne, statements from Quincy Jones, hear from Johnny Gill, Regina Bell, and more as we give a proper tribute to James Ingram. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, it is absolutely cold all across this country as a result of this polar vortex. In Chicago, it is going to be colder tomorrow than in Antarctica. In Detroit, it could be as cold as 35 degrees below. We're talking about dangerously cold temperatures and high winds that's going to hit the Midwest and then the East Coast. Up to 83 million people could very well face sub-zero temperatures, and you need to stay on top of what's going on, especially when it comes to the wind chill and frostbite. Here to explain all of this is Paul Goodlow of the Weather Channel. Paul, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. How do we even get to this point that this much cold weather blanketing the country?
Well, I mean, Roland, it's January. It's January 29th, so we're literally in the middle of winter, so cold happens. Now, you know, we always have a short-term memory. We're not used to, we have to remember the last time we had this type of cold air. It's been in many cities across the Midwest, maybe 25 years or more since we've experienced temperatures this cold for, you know, several days like we're experiencing right now. But this is still winter. Now, yes, it is possibly record-setting cold in many cities. Chicago, for example, we've never had a high temperature as cold as it's forecast for tomorrow. I think that the record is 11 degrees all time, the coldest warm temperature of the day in Chicago. And we could see daytime temperatures around 15, 14 degrees below zero for a high temperature. Yeah, that is definitely remarkable, and temperatures we haven't seen since really the mid-90s in many locations. So it's cold, and yes, winter still happens, even though we are changing our climate. There is global warming. There's no belief. It is a fact. It is real. But weather is day to day. It's, you know, a couple of days at a stretch. Yes, we can still have cold air and still have global warming, and this is basically old school winter back here across the U.S.
And we talk about that. I mean, Detroit, we're hearing reports of minus 35 below as well. Explain to people what that means in terms of them going outside, the need to cover up, the idea of frostbite, things along those lines.
Well, the good news is a lot of schools are closed. Chicago schools are closed for tomorrow. Could even be closed on Thursday, too, because the cold air lingers into Thursday. Same thing in Detroit. Public schools are closed there. And that's a good thing, because with just a wind at, 5, 10 miles an hour, and even 15, that you might not even, really remark on a typical day. When you have air temperatures this cold, you have something called a wind chill. So the air will take this small amount of warm air, which is kind of trapped close to our body, and evaporate it, which means our body now works harder to stay warm. That's the wind chill. And wind chills, when you have air temperatures in the single digits below zero or the teens below zero, with a light wind like that, it can make your body feel like it's out in minus 40, minus 50, even minus 60-degree wind chills. We've already had those today across parts of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, even in Wisconsin. So we've already had these very mind-numbing, even deadly wind chills out there, and it can give you frostbite in the matter of maybe 5 to 10 minutes if you don't have covering on your skin, or you minimize your impact. You don't minimize your impact with the elements, with the wind, the tips of your nose, your ears, and I don't care whether you're white or black or yellow, Puerto Rican or Haitian. You're not immune to this. If you spend time outdoors, you will feel this. It literally takes your breath away and can definitely harm those of us on the extremes. We're talking about the infirmed, the young, the elderly. All these people are more susceptible to succumbing to winter-related illnesses, including frostbite and frostnip and possibly even hypothermia. Got to keep an eye on little ones as well, because sometimes they want to be out there playing and not realizing that their body is screaming for some type of attention and warmth. So this is the type of weather that can literally have life-changing impacts on your body as little as 10 minutes out there. We're not trying to overhype this. I mean, this is some dangerous weather.
Last question for you. How long is this going to last? 1 or 2 days or through the weekend?
It'll last, well, it's winter, so we have about 5.5 more weeks to go, about 50 days until spring. But this latest blast of cold air will last really through Thursday. As we head towards Friday, we start moderating the temperatures. Now, again, we're not getting back to T-shirt weather, but we're getting out of the 30 degrees below average type weather. It's still going to be cold. Chicago, Detroit, maybe even having some quick snow showers as we head on towards the weekend, but not this brutally, I can't stand outside more than 5 or 10 minutes without getting frostbite type weather. That will kind of ease a bit as we head on towards the end of the week. But remember, we're still in January. We still have all of February to get through. And I know the Northeast knows from last year, even in March, they had about, 4 nor'easters in about a 5-week span. So we're still not done in terms of winter weather at all. But this latest blast of Arctic air is basically coming for many cities in the climatologically coldest part of the year. So this is remarkable, but not unheard of in terms of weather that we've experienced here in the U.S. It's just that we haven't experienced it in quite some time. And we always have a short-term memory, but we've had cold air like this before. It's just been, if you got kids who are teenagers, they've never experienced this. And I know, I think about 6 or 7 years ago, another big blast came through here, and that's the type of weather we hadn't seen in maybe 30 years. So, it's just not as frequent as it used to be. But as you know, Roland, because we're about the same age, this is an old school winter across the Midwest and the Great Lakes. All right, Paul Goodlow, Weather Channel. I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Sure thing.
All right, folks, speaking of Chicago, a vicious attack against Empire actor Jussie Smollet. Of course, Jussie, who is black, openly gay, was attacked in Chicago by 2 white masked men yelling the N-word and homophobic slurs. According to the Chicago police, they poured an unknown substance on Smollett. The police also say that at one point, the attackers placed a rope around his neck. Now, Smollett told CNN's Don Lemon that he was shaken and angry and fought back. He took himself to the hospital and was treated and released. This is a photo here of Jussie's face. Now, many folks have been commenting all on social media as a result of the news of this attack. Lee Daniels, the creator of Empire, put out this video.
It's taken me a minute to come to social media about this because, Jussie, you are my son. You didn't deserve, nor anybody deserves, to have a noose put around your neck. to have bleach thrown on you, to be called die, faggot, nigga, or whatever they said to you. You are better than that. We are better than that. America is better than that. It starts at home. It starts at home, yo. We have to love each other, regardless of what sexual orientation we are. Because it shows that we are united on a united front. And no racist fuck can come in and do the things that they did to you. Hold your head up, Jussie. I'm with you. I'll be there in a minute. It's just another fucking day in America.
The studio behind Empire 20th Century Fox issued this statement, quote, "We are deeply saddened and outraged to learn that a member of our Empire family, Jussie Smollet, was viciously attacked last night. We send our love to Jussie, who is resilient and strong, and we will work with law enforcement to bring these perpetrators to justice. The entire studio, network, and production stands united in the face of any despicable act of violence and hate, and especially against one of our own." And so that was a statement there. Again, I reached out to Jussie about 2 hours ago. I have not heard back from him. I sent him a text to see how he was. As I said, he is actually out of the hospital, and so we certainly want to send our prayers to Jussie after this attack. All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening in Baltimore. The state's attorney in Baltimore has decided to stop prosecuting cases of simple marijuana possession. Also, she will vacate the convictions of 5,000 people on the same charge. Joining us right now is State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Marilyn, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Roland?
I'm doing great. I mean, obviously, this is huge news. Why did you decide to make this decision now?
Well, for several reasons. First and foremost, there's absolutely no public safety value to the prosecution of marijuana, which has been legalized in half the states across the country. It's disproportionately impacted communities of color. It erodes public trust because of that disparate sort of enforcement, and it's costly and counterproductive to the limited uses of resources that we have in a city like Baltimore. In 2017, we had 343 homicides with a year-end clearance rate of 31%. Last year, 316 murders, a 26% year-end clearance rate. It's time for us to get serious about what makes us safe, and jailing people for possession of marijuana is not what does it.
We have seen other DAs across the country do this exact same thing. At the same time, while you have states that are also legalizing marijuana, and so you sort of have this back and forth when it comes to this issue. One of the things that also jumps out when we talk about this notion of vacating this is that so many people were sent to prison for long periods of time for basic marijuana use, and now you have folks who are making billions off the very same drug.
Correct. You're absolutely right, Roland. And the problem is not just in the past, it's also in the present. So in 2010, the ACLU put out a report. In Maryland, the arrest rate for possession of marijuana was the 4th highest in the nation. And in Baltimore City, the disparity was even more glaring because you were 6 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession if you were a black person. You would think that that was the ways of the past, but even after the decriminalization of marijuana of 10 grams or less, you still have a disparate sort of role or enforcement that is being applied to black people differently. In 2015, it's now a civil citation in which they can issue, the Baltimore Police Department, 89% of the citations that they issued citywide were black. 2016, 94% were black. In 2017, 95% were the black people. And the most glaring sort of statistic is that 42% of the citations that were issued in only one of 9 police districts throughout the city happened in West Baltimore. In West Baltimore, where their population is 95% black, right, and impoverished. So what that says to me is that you're targeting and enforcing these laws disparately, even though the research has indicated that the use of marijuana among white and black people is the same, but you're targeting black, poor people in West Baltimore.
And what do you hope other DAs will do law and order folks will do when it comes to this whole issue of marijuana prosecutions. Because like I said, we have seen significant numbers of people locked up. You also now have NFL players and former players who are talking about the use of cannabis to make it easier when it comes to pain. We have an opioid crisis as well. So it seems that more and more people are coming to realize that just locking folks up and throwing the key away doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense in that we should be utilizing those resources towards solving homicides, going after violent offenders. You ask a mother who lost her son where she'd like us as law enforcement to spend our money and our time and our resources, she's not going to say on marijuana possession. And you're absolutely right about the collateral consequences that are clearly evident in communities like West Baltimore, that once you get involved in the criminal justice system, you understand there are collateral consequences that come with that. The social, economic, political debilities that result from being involved in the criminal justice system that have long-term effects on people. So it can affect adoptions and housing and immigration, employment, professional licenses. It's just a number of collateral consequences that come with focusing our time and our attention on marijuana possession.
All right then, Marilyn Mosby, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks so very much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me, Roland.
All right, thanks a bunch. Folks, being in prison is pretty bad. Being attacked by another inmate is not so great. How about being chained to a table and attacked by another inmate with a knife is a whole different ordeal. This is what happened to Shamik Pugh and 3 other black inmates at the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility in Lucasville, Ohio, one of the state's most secure prisons. This video is from June 2017. Was first obtained by the Associated Press under a Freedom of Information request. It is certainly shocking. You see what is happening here. Go back to the video, please. So what you have here is, again, 4 inmates chained to a table by a security guard. One of the inmates is being stabbed. That particular, of course, and the officer who did this was not prosecuted as a result of this decision. And so that makes no sense whatsoever. That this case, though, continues to be investigated now that that video has been released. All right, folks, going to a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk with Lee Saunders, talk about the resurgence of unions in America in the age of Trump. Next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
God has made us men long before men made us citizens. Minister Charles T. Walker.
All right, folks, today's HBCU Giving Day. Our university of the day is Gaston State Community College, located in Gaston, Alabama. Founded in 1925. Of course, if you want to support Gaston, go to gastonstate.edu. That's GADSDEN state.edu to support Gaston State. And, of course, we want you to also support your choice, any particular HBCU that you are, where you're located in your city, in your state, because we know they are critically important. Also, guys, want to give an update here on Bennett College. Of course, they have until Friday to raise about $5 million in order to meet as relates to their accreditation. They had to raise that amount of money. And so earlier I saw a tweet I'm going to pull up in a second where the Bennett folks said that they are about 38% away from their goal. So about 62% of the money has been raised thus far. And so one of the things, if you want to text to give, and so here he is, we're going to go to my iPad, Henry. So you see the address here where you can actually give. You can text to give by texting BELLS, BELLES, to 444-999, 444-999. That's text BELLS, BELLES. And you can also use Cash App. And so it's the $ stand with Bennett. $ stand with Bennett. And again, they have until Friday to raise the additional money. The total amount is $5 million they'd have to raise. And so we certainly will keep giving you updates on what's happening with Bennett College. All right, folks, when it comes to workers in America, we have seen Donald Trump and his administration tout low unemployment numbers But at the same time, if you look at what happened with the tax cut that was given, they talked about how that was going to somehow lead to massive reconstruction, give back to employees. Well, none of that stuff happened. So what is actually happening now? More and more people are also seeing the value and the benefits of unions. Joining us right now is Saunders. He's the president of the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees. They also, of course, the union has 1.6 million members, and they also are a partner here of Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we certainly appreciate their support. Lee, glad to have you back.
Glad to be here.
We have seen for the last 20 years a steady decrease in terms of union members. Now, all of a sudden, last 2 years of Donald Trump, people are going, wait a minute, the purpose of unions when it comes to collective bargaining makes sense. On the media side, a number of digital sites began to align themselves with various unions when it came to negotiating. BuzzFeed just laid off 15% of their workforce, and for the longest, their company has said, "Hey, we don't need that." Now employers are saying, "No, maybe we need collective bargaining." What happened here, where Americans stop demonizing unions and begin to realize their value?
I think that you're seeing a new activism among all workers, whether they're in unions or not in unions. The most recent Gallup poll showed that 62% of the American public believes that unions play a vital role in today's society, that you need that checks and balances against the corporations and those who have a lot of money, have a lot of power, have a lot of wealth, and trying to gain more power and wealth at the expense of working people. So working people are coming together and saying enough is enough. And they're organizing more. We are growing as far as the union is concerned. Since 2016, we've gained 22,000 new members under the vicious attacks that have taken place over the past number of years. The same thing is happening with other unions across the country. And you see the mobilization efforts, the strikes that are taking place, voices being heard saying enough is enough. The educator strikes in the reddest of states, where teachers are going on strike, not just for better wages and benefits, but for the common good, to support public education, to support smaller sized classrooms, to include children in their demands. And you see all of this activity occurring, and there is a sense that people are saying enough is enough, and we're willing to make our voices heard.
You talk about those strikes, and now you have some state legislators who literally want to outlaw teachers from striking.
Well, in many of those red states where they did strike, there's a law that says that they can't strike, but that's not going to stop folks when they want to take collective action and understand that they've got to stand up for their rights, that they've got to stand up for their students, that we've got to stand up for public services, we've got to stand up for workers' rights. And you see that momentum carrying state by state by state, and I believe it's going to continue.
When you talk about attacks on unions, I mean, we can really go back to early 1980s. Ronald Reagan as president, fires the air traffic controllers. Even though he got the endorsement of the Teamsters Union, you still had what happened was the word union became a negative, became portrayed as being evil, as being bad. Do you also believe that unions had to, as they've been battling this for the last 30 years, had to learn a different way of communicating their value and purpose? Because in essence, they were being defined by their critics.
We essentially had to get back to basics, and we let those critics define us, and that was a mistake. And we've learned from that. And the most important thing that we can do, Roland, right now is for us to talk and communicate with our members, to talk and communicate with working people who may not be in unions, to listen to what they've got to say, talk about the issues that impact on them, their families, their communities every single day, and then talk about the importance of unions and how we can improve their lives, how we can improve their wages and benefits, how we provide them collective power to fight back like never before. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Now, of course, you also impact, how has AFSCME been impacted by the Janus decision and other unions? But of course, that Supreme Court decision that many folks, many unions were definitely afraid of.
Well, a lot of folks had thought that with the passage of Janus and it becoming the law of the land, that would be the death knell for public sector workers, because essentially what it does is it makes in the public sector, every state is right to work, right to work. It had just the opposite effect. We are thriving. We are growing. People are saying that this is unfair, that nobody can take our union away from us. So we're organizing like never before. Other unions are organizing like never before. And people understand that their power is being taken away from them, and that is not acceptable. You mentioned the fact that legislators and politicians many times wouldn't even use the word union. Well, unions have benefited workers all across this country, and now politicians are talking about unions, the importance of the trade union movement, the checks and balances that exist, and we've just got to continue to promote those folks doing those kinds of things.
When we talk about, I had, of course, Bill Spriggs on, economist with AFL-CIO, Howard University, economics professor, and he talked about historically the importance of unions for African Americans. You got folks out there who are young, who are watching us right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. And so share with them again how disproportionately unions impact black folks economically compared to others.
Well, if you are a union member and you're African American, your wages are substantially higher, your benefits are better, and you have a voice on the job. You cannot ignore those kinds of statistics. Where we have a union environment, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector, it disproportionately impacts in a positive way African American families. Not only that member, but the families and their communities. And we've just got to continue to get that word out. That's one of the reasons why they're coming after us, because they don't want to see us have that kind of power, to see us have that kind of clout. So not only as far as African Americans are concerned, but people of color, it's the same kinds of statistics. And so what we've got to do is continue to promote the importance of the union movement, what collective action can do to benefit working families, to benefit workers, to benefit their communities. And that's why you see this surge of momentum saying enough is enough. We need protections, we need a union, and we're going to make our voices heard and fight back.
All right, Lee Saunders, we really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right, I got these out. Doesn't hit you with the fist pound, so I don't want you to catch anything. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks. Last night, Senator Kamala Harris, of course, she was involved in town halls on CNN. I don't watch CNN, so Monique Presley, my producer, they were busy watching the show, texting me, telling me what happened, saying Senator Harris killed it. If you actually look at the ratings as well, it was the single highest single candidate town hall in CNN's history. A new poll out today also shows that Senator Harris and Joe Biden are the front runners for the Democratic nomination. Now, again, professional tip here, pay no attention to these polls this far out. Way too early. But Senator Harris was indeed impressive with how she was able to answer questions. Now, at the town hall, she talked about why she's in favor of Medicare for all and getting rid of health insurance companies. Watch this.
And what we know is that to live in a civil society, to be true to the ideals and the spirit of who we say we are as a country, we have to appreciate and understand that access to health care it should not be thought of as a privilege. It should be understood to be a right. It should be understood to be something that all people should be entitled to so that they can live a productive life, so they can have dignity. And having a system that makes a difference in terms of who receives what based on your income is unconscionable, it is cruel, and in many situations that I have witnessed, inhumane.
All right, folks, and so there still are lots of questions for Senator Harris with regards to her record when it comes to criminal justice, and those questions, of course, will be asked in the future. Now, here's what's interesting. Calls for Medicare for all from Senator Harris. Senator Elizabeth Warren called for a wealth tax on people with net worth of over $50 million, and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's call for a 70% tax on the very rich. They've spooked the billionaires. One of them is Starbucks founder Howard Schultz. Now, he is making noise about running for president as an independent, and he was asked about Medicare for all on CBS this morning.
Well, you just played Senator Harris as saying she wants to abolish the insurance industry. That's not correct. That's not American. What's next? What industry are we going to abolish next? The coffee industry?
Okay, so here's the piece, okay? So Schultz also called the 70% marginal tax rate for the very rich that proposed by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, he calls that un-American. Now, here's also what's crazy here, y'all. So Howard Schultz, who's actually a Democrat, the reason he said he is considering running as an independent is because of Congressman Ocasio-Cortez's 70% tax rate, marginal tax rate. So let me just get this straight. Howard Schultz, a billionaire, says he's afraid to run as a Democrat because of one woman, a freshman member of Congress. He's literally afraid to run because she is proposing this. Okay, let me help y'all out. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has suggested this in interviews. There is no bill. The House Democrats are not literally considering a bill to change the tax rate. Okay, let me also explain to you that 70%, it's 70% after $10 million. After $10 million. He won't run as a Democrat because of that. Let me go ahead and just unpack this for y'all. Howard Schultz is scared. Howard Schultz is a wimp. Howard Schultz is actually deathly afraid to stand on a stage with the other Democratic candidates and defend his positions. You cannot convince me that this guy is saying, I don't want to run as a Democrat because of that New York young congresswoman. Do you know how weak and impotent that is? It's about as weak and impotent as paying $6 for a cup of damn coffee. That's stuck on stupid to me. Mind you, I have never in my life bought a Starbucks coffee. But to say you're scared to run as a Democrat because of one woman is weak. No. Here's the real deal. Billionaires like Howard Schultz don't like being questioned. I'll go ahead and put it right now. I know he's hired Steve Smith, who of course ran John McCain's campaign in 2008. I know he's hired Bill Burton, who worked on Obama's campaign in 2008 and 2012, but who's also a joke. Howard Schultz is not going to run as an independent. This is a vanity deal. This is the guy who has a book out right now who wants to sell some copies of a book. But if you actually want to run for president, have the guts to stand on a stage with the other candidates. Have the guts to travel around the country and go ask voters for their vote and travel and have these various discussions. But don't sit here and try to fool us and act as if you somehow are just so offended, so scared, just so, oh my goodness, how dare she make this proposal to tax us? Dude, you're a billionaire. A billionaire. And you don't like being questioned. That's the real deal right there. So if y'all want to sit here and listen to Howard Schultz, that's fine. If y'all want to take him seriously, that's fine. And he's doing interviews all over the place, The View and CBS, and he's going to be on Morning Joe tomorrow, all these places. But Howard Schultz, really? Really? You're scared of one congresswoman from the Bronx? Dude, that's weak, and that's sorry. It really is. All right, folks, going to a break right now. We come back, and we're going to actually talk about Kamala Harris. Last night we told you everyone running for president was going to be looked at very carefully, and already the Young Turks are reporting that Howard Schultz gave less than 1% of his fortune to charity. Boy, such a big giver. Now, Senator Kamala Harris is also being called out on her actions as San Francisco District Attorney, and critics are pointing to this clip from January of 2009.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. The school district has got a carrot. Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school. So, to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district, outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
So one of the issues that we'll, of course, be talking about is the idea of using a prosecutor using the threat of jail to deal with truancy. Is that the proper thing to do in this country? And so, again, that's just one of the issues that we'll be talking about as we continue to cover the campaign of Senator Kamala Harris and the other Democrats who are running for president in 2020. All right, folks, got to go to a break right now. When we come back, we're going to pay tribute to one of the legends of R&B music, James Ingram, who passed away today at the age of 66 from brain cancer. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a moment.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Got Roland Martin Unfiltered, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, welcome back. This afternoon, many of us were shocked and saddened to hear about the death of James Ingram, the R&B legend who was 66 years old. Henry, go to my iPad. This was a tweet that was sent out at 2:23 p.m. Eastern by Debbie Allen that said, I have lost my dearest friend and creative partner, James Ingram, to the Celestial Choir. He will always be cherished, loved, and remembered for his genius, his love of family, and his humanity. I am blessed to have been so close. We will forever speak his name. And then once this was posted, folks began to, of course, comment on it. And then, of course, we saw the story. Initially, there was no cause of death given. And then later, we saw the story that said that James Ingram passed away as a result of brain cancer. Now, many folks, of course, have been tributes have been pouring in for the legendary singer Quincy Jones. We called Quincy, and Quincy wasn't doing any particular interviews, but Quincy did release this statement. He said, quote, "There are no words to convey how much my heart aches with the news of the passing of my baby brother, James Ingram." With that soulful, whiskey-sounding voice, James Ingram was simply magical. From the minute I first heard his voice on the demo tape for Just Once to 100 Ways, his classic duet with Patty Austin, How Do You Keep the Music Playing, Secret Garden, We Are the World, and all of our recordings, every beautiful note that James sang pierced your essence and comfortably made itself at home. But it was really no surprise because James was a beautiful human being with a heart the size of the moon. James Ingram was and always will be beyond compare. Rest in peace, baby brother. You will be in my heart forever. Again, that was the great Quincy Jones who released that particular statement. He also paid tribute to James Ingram on his Twitter page as well, posting a video where James Ingram actually performed at a tribute for Quincy Jones. And so, Henry, go to my iPad. This is Quincy Jones introducing James Ingram.
All the love you got left, I want you to give it up right now for the singer, James Ingram. Your favorite song. Cue. Listen. James Ingram. The acronym.
I did my best, but I guess my best.
All right, folks, joining us on the phone right now is the incomparable Jeffrey Osborne. Jeffrey, how you doing, brother?
I'm great, Roland. How you doing, man? A little saddened, you know, from the news.
Absolutely. I saw your Twitter post earlier, and you said it was interesting because people always got you and James Ingram confused.
Yeah, it was rather funny, actually. Me and James did a lot of work together, going way back to, wow, you know, the 80s. We did some shows in Vegas together for a while, and it's funny. We'd be standing together, and people would come up and still get us mixed up. People would come up to me and say they love my song Just Once, and they'd come up to James and say, I love your song On the Wings of Love. And we'd stand there looking at each other, laughing. And James would always play it off. James would always just go with it. He'd say, "Yeah, James, I love you On the Wings of Love." He'd say, "Yeah, that was a good song, wasn't it?" So we had so much fun, man. I loved him, and I'm dearly going to miss him. Wow.
Well, one of the things that is also interesting, and this actually happened, Jeffrey. So I'm at Essence Music Festival. I'm in a restaurant in New Orleans. And a woman sitting at the table next to me, and she introduces herself, and she tells me she's James Ingram's daughter. And she said, "Oh, my God, my dad really enjoys your work." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that." And then what's so funny is I said, "But I need you to tell me, how is it that your dad never, ever got the woman?" I said, "I swear, I listen to more to your dad's music." I said, "And I always got sad because he never, ever seemed to get the woman in the end." So the next year, the next year was 2007. The history makers had a tribute to Quincy Jones. And James Ingram was one of the folks who paid tribute along with Eddie Levert and others. And I went up to James. I said, "Dog," I said, "you never got the woman, man." He cracked up laughing so loud. And again, and his music was just amazing. But that was always the deal. It was just sort of just his style and what, you know, his outpouring and so how he affected folks with those ballads.
Right, exactly. Well, he had that voice, man. That voice just was amazing, man. It was, you know, a real earthy sound in his voice that just connected with everyone. You know, at one point, James and I did a duet album, which never got released. It's a shame that it never got released, but it got mixed up in a record company kind of a duel. And, you know, like I said, we spent a lot of time together, James and I. He was over my house. I was over his house. We wrote some stuff together for the duet album. And sadly enough, it never came out. But he was an incredible guy. He was a crazy guy, man. He was so full of fun, man. I tell you, it was amazing. And I'm blessed to have spent the time that I did with James, because we did a lot of shows together. And he's just a beautiful person and a spirit and an incredible vocalist.
And one of the things that when we talk about, you know, cats like him and just like you, the problem is the music game has changed, and folks always talk about that really unpopular radio. There really is no place for mature, or I say grown ass singers. You know, but you still have this huge fan base that appreciates a great ballad that James Ingram, you know, 100 Ways, or of course the duets that he would do with Patty Austin.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, the duets were amazing. How do you keep the music playing? I mean, just incredible songs. I mean, Just Once. I mean, even I Don't Have a Heart. I mean, he just had incredible songs. And, yeah, I mean, you know, you can't replace that kind of music in the history of music. I mean, your music has changed today, but there are people that will go down in history for their accomplishments and their contributions, what they've made to music. And believe me, I mean, even though the music has changed today, so many people still appreciate someone who can deliver a ballad, someone who is always touching your soul. That means a lot. It really means a lot. And I also think that, you know, the young people that are making music today, I mean, they've listened and they've studied, and, you know, they respect it 100%. It's just a different thing. Music is just in a different state right now.
All right, then, Jeffrey Osborne, man, I certainly appreciate. Always good chatting with you.
Oh, always, Roland, man. And thank you for doing this tribute to James, because he definitely deserves it, without a doubt. Absolutely. He's the one legendary brother, man. Love him to death.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, we're going to go to another legend. Let's go to Regina Bell, who's on the phone. Regina, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey, Roland. Good to talk to you.
Hate to talk to you under these circumstances, but just share your thoughts with our audience about James Ingram.
Wow. Well, I mean, what do you say? A legend, an icon, one of the most memorable voices that we've had in a while, especially through the 80s and the 90s, is gone. What can I say? The last time that I saw James was 2014. I was doing the Soul Train cruise. And I remember I was going to my room, and I hadn't seen him with his head shaved. And so I didn't know who he was. I didn't place who he was right away. And he went off on me. Like, I know you're not trying to not know who I am. I was like, James? And he's like, yeah. He's like, girl, don't play with me. He started coming towards me like he was going to shake me. But I mean, he was that kind of brother. He wasn't just a great artist. He was just a great person, and always had great words of wisdom. I remember me and my brother would have issues. In fact, I met him through my brother Bernard Bell, who had an opportunity to work with him. And when I couldn't see eye to eye with my brother on certain things concerning music, I called James, and James would get him straight. So, you know, I mean, a friend, somebody who just gave us some of the greatest love songs ever. He's going to be missed. I don't know what else we can say.
Things that, I mean, his voice obviously was distinct. And when you think about, again, James Ingram, you don't think of fast songs. I mean, you really think about these really slow, emotional, heart-wrenching songs that touch you at your core.
Right. Unless you know that he co-wrote songs like PYT, which is one of my absolute favorites, by Michael Jackson. So, you know, I mean, he had the ability to do it all. That's what we know him for. But when I tell you his legacy extends way beyond just a love song, of course that is some of his greatest hits. But when I tell you he could do anything, he was amazing. He was an amazing musician, not just a singer, but an amazing musician.
When we think about James Ingram, you knew the battle that he was enduring. Many of us did not know that he was battling brain cancer. Last time you saw him?
The last time I saw him was 2014. I saw him on the Soul Train cruise. But I would talk to different people who we both know, and they would kind of give me an update or keep me posted on how he was doing and what his state was at the time. And I was just really sad to hear, because having had a brain tumor myself, and so I and I'm thankful to God that it wasn't malignant. But any turn of the cards, it could have been a different story for me, a different outcome. And so, my family, my heart goes out to the family, to Debbie and all of his children and his family. It's just so much, just to have to know that he's fighting this fight. But now I'm thankful to God that he doesn't have to fight anymore. He doesn't have to go through any of that anymore. No more the suffering, no more of the pain, no more of the, all of what entails that comes with that. He doesn't have to deal with that anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. Regina Bell, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you for, because it's going to take us to keep, our great icons, our musical legends. It's going to take us to keep them alive. I think we killed them twice when we don't remember them. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this, and I'm sure a lot of other people will jump on the bandwagon. So thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, folks. Earlier today, I also called Lionel Richie. He's actually filming as we speak American Idol in Hawaii. Wanted to join us, but certainly wanted to express his condolences to James Ingram as well. In addition, I called Eric Benet, one of our, of course, newer singers, of course, offering his ballads, if you will. And he is flying as we speak, and also wanted to express his thoughts and perspective on James Ingram. We're on Instagram right now, and there's so many different posts here of different people, of course, expressing the love and appreciation for James Ingram. Here, you can go to my iPad. I'm just showing you some of the stuff that we have here again. And so you look at some of the responses, all kind of different people posting their photos, as you saw the duet there with Patty Austin. And then we're trying to get Johnny Gill on the phone as well. And so, but right now, while we're trying to get them on the phone, here is the tribute from 2007. Gwen Ifill was interviewing Quincy Jones for the History Makers. That, of course, it aired on PBS. I was there at that particular event. It was an amazing, amazing night. And here is James Ingram paying a tribute to his longtime friend, the great Quincy Jones.
This song started my career with Quincy Jones. I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough. 'Cause here we are back where we were before. Seems we're always changing. We're back to being strangers, wondering if we ought to stay or head on